The tray slipped in her hands. Her voice, barely audible, trembled through the noise of the restaurant. "That's my mom?" The billionaire froze, his fork clattering onto the plate. His gaze locked onto the golden locket resting against his chest, open now, revealing the face of the woman they both knew. The world around them carried on, laughter, music, glasses clinking, yet everything between them shattered in silence. A waitress and a billionaire, bound by a truth too powerful to ignore. This is the story of a locket, a secret, and a family rediscovered. Comment your city below if you're watching. The clinking of glasses and the hum of quiet conversations filled the air of the upscale downtown restaurant. To most, it was just another night of polished silverware and expensive meals. But for Maya, a young black waitress moving swiftly between tables, it was another night of invisible labor. Her smile was practiced, her tone polite, yet her presence was often met with dismissive glances or hurried waves, as if she were part of the furniture rather than a person. She had worked here for nearly 2 years, balancing trays that were sometimes heavier than her own frame could carry. Tips varied, kindness was rare, and the whispered assumptions about her competence never really faded. Still, she endured. Maya had more than plates. She had responsibility. At home, her younger siblings waited, counting on her wages to cover school supplies and groceries. It was the kind of pressure that aged her beyond her years, but she never let it show. The restaurant was her stage, and every night she played her role. The pristine white tablecloths and sparkling chandeliers painted a picture of elegance, but behind the curtain was a system that reminded her daily that she was on the lower rung. The managers rarely acknowledged her unless something went wrong. Customers often confused her name with the only other black waitress on staff, as if they were interchangeable. Yet Maya's resilience was her quiet rebellion. She learned to read people's moods, to move silently through hostility, to swallow words she longed to say. Life had taught her to keep her head high while the world tried to push it down. But on this particular night, something would break the rhythm. Among the sea of wealthy diners, one man entered with the kind of presence that drew every eye in the room. A billionaire, though Maya didn't know it yet. What she noticed first wasn't his suit or his status. It was the small golden locket hanging against his chest, glinting under the soft lights. She couldn't explain why her heart skipped. Not yet. But that locket would unravel everything she thought she knew about her past, her family, and her place in this world. Maya moved between tables with her usual efficiency, weaving through the maze of conversations, laughter, and clinking glasses. The man with the locket had chosen a quiet corner, away from the crowded center of the dining room. He carried himself with calm authority, the kind of presence that made people lower their voices when he passed. His tailored suit, polished shoes, and steady demeanor signaled wealth and power. To the other staff, he was just another high-profile guest. To Maya, he was something else, though she couldn't yet place why. The locket shimmered faintly against his crisp shirt. Every time she approached to refill his glass or set a plate, her eyes wandered back to it, a simple piece of jewelry in a sea of extravagance. Yet it seemed to tug at her very being. But the world around her didn't pause for curiosity. The restaurant's culture had its own rhythm, one that often reminded Maya of her place. A group of businessmen at a nearby table snapped their fingers to summon her, laughing as though it were a joke. "Move faster," one muttered when she reached them, tossing a napkin onto the floor for her to pick up. She bent down silently, feeling the sting of humiliation as their laughter carried on. Her cheeks burned, but she pushed it aside. She had endured worse. Moments later, the manager intercepted her near the kitchen. "Table 7 says you got their order wrong," he whispered harshly, not even allowing her to explain. His eyes narrowed, the silent accusation heavy. Mistakes from workers like her were rarely forgiven. She glanced toward table 7 and saw a woman deliberately smirking, wine glass in hand, as though satisfied with the trouble she had caused. Maya swallowed her frustration, murmured an apology, and returned to her duties. The injustices piled quietly, unseen by most. To her, they were the familiar weight of being a black woman in a place where her efforts were never enough. where her existence was often reduced to servitude. And yet, amid the noise and cruelty, her attention always drifted back to that locket. When she approached the man's table again, clearing his plate, the golden charm swung forward. For a moment it opened slightly, revealing a faded photograph. Her breath caught. She froze mid-step, nearly dropping the dishes. Inside the locket was the image of a woman, soft eyes, a gentle smile, and a face Maya knew better than any other. It was her mother, who had died years ago. Her mother, who had raised her with love and strength until illness stole her away. Her heart raced violently. How could a stranger be wearing her mother's face around his neck? She stumbled back, placing the plates on the nearest tray stand with trembling hands. Memories crashed through her mind. Her mother humming while cooking, her gentle embrace, the way she whispered encouragement when Maya felt small. Tears pricked her eyes, but she fought them back. The room spun, yet she forced herself to steady her breath. The man glanced up, catching her sudden change in demeanor. His expression softened for a moment, as though he too felt a pang of familiarity. But he said nothing, continuing to sit in dignified silence. Maya's thoughts spiraled. Was it a coincidence? Was this man somehow connected to her family? Why had no one told her? Questions burned inside her chest, louder than the insults of the patrons, heavier than the weight of the trays she carried. And still, she kept moving, each step harder than the last. The restaurant felt like a trap now, glittering walls holding her in place. At the same time, the truth dangled just inches away, beating like a second heart inside that golden locket. The moment could no longer be ignored. Maya's hands shook as she returned to the man's table, her eyes fixed on the locket. Her breath quickened, heart pounding so loud she thought the entire restaurant might hear it. She leaned closer to pour his water, and the locket swung open again. This time there was no mistaking it. The photograph stared back at her, clear and undeniable, her mother's face captured in time. Her body froze, the tray in her hand slipping slightly before she caught it. A whisper escaped her lips, trembling and raw. "That's my mom." The man looked up sharply, his fork falling against the plate with a clang. His face drained of color, eyes wide, as though he had just been struck. Slowly, almost unwillingly, he reached for the locket and held it in his palm. His gaze flickered from the photo to Maya's face, searching, comparing, trembling. Then it hit him. His chest rose and fell in unsteady waves, the reality crashing down. The resemblance was undeniable. The eyes, the shape of her face, the subtle curve of her smile. His throat tightened, his knees weakening under the weight of recognition. The restaurant around them continued as though nothing had happened. Laughter, clinking glasses, waiters moving briskly. Yet in that corner time had stopped. Billionaire and Waitress, separated by wealth, power, and circumstance, stood bound together by a truth stronger than any barrier. And for the first time, both of their lives would never be the same again. Silence stretched between them, heavy and unyielding. Maya's whisper still lingered in the air, fragile yet earth-shattering. The billionaire's hands trembled as he held the locket, his eyes brimming with emotions he could no longer conceal. For years, he had carried it close to his heart, a relic of the woman he once loved, a woman torn from his life by distance and circumstance. He had lived with wealth, power, and influence, but in that single moment, he felt utterly stripped bare. Maya's chest rose in shallow breaths, her thoughts unraveling. Memories of her mother blended with this man's reaction, piecing together a truth too overwhelming to deny. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a chance. The man before her was not just another guest. He was blood. Family. Tears filled her eyes, and for once she didn't fight them. She let them fall. In his silence, she saw his regret, his longing, his grief. Years of lies and separation dissolved into a raw recognition that neither of them had prepared for. Around them, the restaurant carried on, oblivious. But in that quiet corner, history was rewritten. The waitress, so often overlooked, now stood at the center of a story that defied power, race, and wealth. Their embrace did not come immediately. Instead, It went in a glance, in the unspoken acknowledgement that they had found one another after lifetimes of loss. It was more than a reunion. It was a revelation. A reminder that no system of prejudice, no wall of privilege, could bury the truth forever. And as Maya stood rooted in that moment, one thought rose above the noise. Family could be hidden, but it could never truly be erased.